Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, X, Threads, and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. So we're back for another season.
It was like we were never away.
Well, we don't really have a break, do we? We just sort of carry on. For everyone else that's listening, there's like a 3-week break, 4-week break between the seasons, but we just carry on.
Yeah. In fact, we recorded the wrap show for last season yesterday.
We did. Yeah.
So this is quite weird to go straight into a new theme.
Yeah. Yes. Brand new theme. It's my choice because you chose the last one.
Which was kind of obvious from the pics.
From the lineup of movies, you could look at that lineup and go, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah chose that one. But
look at all the incest. It must be Sarah.
which we spoke about in great detail in our season 6 wrap show. Check out our Patreon feed.
Some would say too much detail.
Yeah, some might say that. Not me.
But you chose this theme.
Yes.
Which is
dreams.
And why did you choose dreams?
Well, it's my answer is always the same, really. There's a film that I wanted to cover.
Okay.
And it fits within that kind of theme. But also, like, it is a very interesting kind of unexplored area of human existence. Like, it's only recently that we've began to be able to measure things that go on in our brain. So it's a relatively new area of scientific study, I feel like, outside of anecdotal evidence. Mm-hmm. It's and it's fascinating. It's something I think we can all relate to at some point in our lives. Some people can't dream, can they?
Seriously?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was just.
Oh right, you're just making sweeping statements with no credence.
I wonder if everyone dreams, but just not everyone can remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. I very rarely remember my dreams. Very rarely.
I do quite often.
And how are they?
They veer between the absolute mundane to VHS shopping 1 minute and then running away from burglars the next.
Okay.
There's a lot of being chased, actually. Being chased is definitely a recurring theme in my dreams.
Do you ever fly in your dreams?
I've never flown that I'm aware of.
You just walk in?
Yeah.
Okay, boring.
Just using me trotters.
Yeah. I like I said, I very rarely remember my dreams. But I do remember a few from when I was like a kid. I do sort of tend to float in my dreams rather than fly. I tend to float a few feet off the ground.
So you're just hovering?
I'm sort of hovering.
That's way less impressive.
There's this weird thing that seems to be recurring in my dreams as well, where if I flap my arms like they're wings, I can get off the ground a little bit, but I have to keep flapping like really vigorously, and I can only get up a little bit, and I'm knackered. Yeah.
Have you tried doing this in real life?
Well, yeah, obviously. Doesn't work. Try it from the ground.
Dream logic.
Yeah. But I sort of rarely remember my dreams, but sometimes they're very weird. There was a lot of zombie stuff when I was a teenager, a lot of zombie dreams. Probably more to do with the kind of media I was consuming back then.
Yeah, my dreams are often influenced by films that I've been watching recently.
Yeah.
Not that just very quickly, I haven't been dreaming about incest, okay? But just wanted to put that out there before anybody comes for me.
Good.
So that's why you chose the theme. Okay. You just wanted to delve into this area that you feel hasn't been explored enough.
Yeah, I guess so. It just feels like a good, interesting theme.
And it's not really explored very much in films, because when you told me the theme, I was just like, well, there's all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Yeah, we could have done a full season of Nightmare on Elm Street movies. We could have done the 7 movies and the reboot as the 8th one.
No, the remake.
Yeah.
No.
No,
have you seen it?
I'm saying we could have.
We could have done, yeah. I mean, it does have our Lord and Saviour Carl Gorner in it.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scream King.
Yeah.
But it's not good. It's no good.
I have seen it. Yeah, I don't remember thinking it was great. But it was a long time ago. It's maybe due a rewatch. Maybe due a reevaluation.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I can guarantee you. But I struggled to come up with other examples. Yeah. And in fact, I've only seen about half the movies you've chosen. So
yeah, probably out of the seasons that I've chosen, is it fair to say that this one has the most amount of movies that you haven't seen?
Oh, by a long stretch, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and there's some interesting choices in there. I think it feels a little bit left field for it to be my choice.
Yeah.
This season is more horror leaning, I would say, in general.
Huzzah.
What does that mean?
Hooray.
Oh, right, okay.
Yippee.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, but it's more sort of in keeping with your general tastes rather than mine. I do enjoy horror, but not as much as you.
Mm-hmm. And so what have you chosen to kick us off then?
Yes, so the first one we're going to be looking at is Come True, a relatively recent movie, 2020 or 2021. It got a wide release, but it was knocking around in festivals from 2020, I believe.
Okay.
It's one that we saw together for the first time.
It is.
You've seen it a few times now.
I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times.
Wow, that's so much for such a recent movie as well.
I think it's great. I've also covered it before on my old podcast. So if any listeners came over from that enterprise, I'm going to try not to repeat myself. This is a don't repeat yourself challenge. Either way, it's going to be a different conversation, different co-host. Yeah. I'm pretty stoked to get your thoughts on this one.
Okay. I am struggling to muster up any thoughts on this one.
Okay. Any?
Yeah, honestly.
All right.
I have practically 0 notes.
Okay,
because
interesting.
I just don't know what I'm going to talk about with this movie.
It'll come to you.
Outside of the references, influences, I really don't know where this conversation is going to go. And sometimes for me, that's a good thing because I have a tendency to overthink these things. And when I really prepare a lot, sometimes that can be a hindrance to me.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when I don't prepare enough, that can also be a hindrance to me.
You need to find that sweet spot.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes, I guess.
I think you'll do great. You'll do great.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
It's safe to say that you enjoy this film a lot as well, given that you've seen it, did you say 3 times now?
3 times, yeah. I like this film quite a bit. Yeah, I think this is pretty good.
Yeah. I remembered you did, because I think we watched it together. You've already said we watched it together for the first time, I believe, on New Year's Eve.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
That must have been 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, so we were quite late to it, really.
We were,
It'd been out for a while, which surprises me because you must have been aware of this.
I wasn't at all. And it's only by virtue of the fact that one of my old podcast co-hosts put it on her top 5 of the year. Right. And I was like, what is this Come True? And then, I did a bit of digging. Turns out I'd actually seen the poster already. But I don't know. It really flew under the radar for me, which is such a shame. And then we watched it together and it was one of those, it's the last time I can remember sort of watching something for the first time and being fully blown away. That happens so infrequently these days. And I was just hooked.
I had a very similar experience when I watched the Roadhouse remake.
Oh my God, no. Stop it.
Yeah.
The Roadhouse remake blew you away, did it?
It did blow me away because everyone said it was shit and I watched it. It was like, pretty good.
No, everyone was correct in this instance.
No.
That's the hill I'm going to die on, Dan. You know it is.
So it was written and directed by Anthony Scott Burns.
Yes.
Also, he was the director of photography.
Okay.
Also, he was the editor.
Bloody hell.
Also, he worked on the VFX.
Did he do catering?
Also, he made the sandwiches. And he did some of the score as well, working with Electric Youth on some of the... Probably my favourite part of this movie, actually, is the score.
I struggle to sort of isolate a favourite part, but the score is definitely something that was in heavy rotation for me the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Music is always a big deal for me, and it was quite nice to hear Anthony Scott Burns on podcasts talking about the music and him saying, you know, for him as well, 80% of a movie is sound, is score, is sound design. So it was quite nice to hear that.
Did you feel validated?
I did feel validated. I just think it's so true.
Yeah. Especially, I don't know, maybe I'm way off, but I would say especially in genre pictures. Like, we had a conversation recently, and it wasn't until I was studying film and media, and one of my teachers kind of said at the time, if you turn the sound off from a horror film, it's not scary. It removes all of the tension. It is all about the score and the sound design. And that really stuck with me. So I think genre films definitely benefit from good sound.
Yes.
And this one, for sure, has really good sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Executive producer Vincenzo Natali.
Yeah, which I hadn't picked up on until last night, I don't think.
Yeah, I had no idea. I saw he had an EP credit last night for the first time. And again, had listened to Anthony Scott Burns on podcast and talking about his friendship with Natali.
Oh, really?
And Burns was, I believe, an AD on In the Tall Grass? Is that what it was called?
Oh, yeah. I think we've mentioned this before. I think it's the one that was based on, book. I want to say Stephen King's son's book.
Okay.
I'm not saying that with a shred of confidence because I'm not confident about it. I think it was, yeah. That's cool. So that's 2 seasons on the bounce that we've started with a film that Vincenzo Natali worked on. Unintentionally.
Yeah, completely unintentionally. It's funny. It's funny that. But apparently Burns had done a bit of work and put it online, and Natali had seen it and rung him up and gone, like your stuff, let's kind of work together. And they've kind of been mates ever since.
Oh, cool.
Natali's kind of taken him under his wing and they've worked together, and yeah, it all seems great.
Oh, I love that. I don't know a great deal about anybody else who's involved in this project, I'll be honest.
Well, it was a very small crew. He says on the podcast it was about 5 people. I'm sure it was more than that.
Okay. I don't even know what the standard is, but yeah, that doesn't sound very many.
It depends on the size of the production and what you're trying to achieve, and whether you need a second unit, a third unit, and so on and so forth. I don't know what the budget was for this film either. I couldn't find a budget for it anywhere, but it's going to be cheap. I would
estimate on the very low end.
But that's the reason that he likes to have a small crew, is so that it's cheap, so that he has the time to develop and make it and craft it into a thing that he's proud of and wants to show to the world. So he has a small crew so that he can spend longer shooting and spend more time with the actors. And I think he said he spent about 2 years in post.
Wow.
Working on the VFX, and obviously we'll talk about the dream sequences.
I'm desperate to talk more about that.
Yeah, so not a huge crew at all. So there's not really that many names to mention, and half of the names are Anthony Scott Burns. He must have 10 pairs of hands.
Man of many talents.
And a head full of legs, like that dream sequence.
We'll talk about that as well. That's literally in my notes.
Okay.
That is quite literally the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with Burns, but I'm, based on this movie, really super excited to see what else he comes up with, what else he works on.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything else that was in the works currently, but then if this is how he makes movies, then it could be years before something's finished. Who knows?
Or maybe he's doing some TV. Something on TV, maybe.
Yeah, I did scan his credits, and I know there was a film called, I think it was Our House, which I haven't seen, but I definitely recognize it, and on the strength of this, I'm definitely going to have to seek that out now.
Apparently, have you seen a movie called Flashback?
No.
That surprises me because it's got Micah Monroe in it.
Oh.
And apparently he did, under the name Pilot Priest, he did the score for that movie. So maybe something we should check out.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. It's got Dylan.
Oh, I know which one it is. Yeah, I knew it was one of the Dylans or a Logan Lerman or someone.
Yeah, I get those confused as well. Dylan O'Brien.
There's a couple of Dylans.
I think
and Dylan Minnette as well.
Right, okay. Were they all in like the young action type movies? Are they young action? Is that what YA stands for?
No, young adult.
Oh, right. I suppose it's quite obvious when you think about it. But yeah, it's called Flashback. It's got another name as well, but it's called the something of Frederick something.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of it. But yeah, you might know it under that name as well.
No.
No. But yeah, did the score for that, so probably something that we should check out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think he did one of the segments for an anthology film called Holidays as well, but I'm not sure which one.
That's an anthology, is it?
It is, yes. Which is, I'm assuming, why you've avoided it.
I've never heard of it. That's why I've avoided it.
Well, it's kind of an anthology film, but the segments were made up of like St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas, you know.
Oh, okay. Hence the name Holidays.
Yes.
Get it. Clever.
Right. But I am going to be controversial and say I didn't really care for it on the whole.
Yeah.
But then anthologies are always a mixed bag, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be hit or miss, and mostly miss for me, to be honest.
But otherwise, yeah, I didn't recognise a great deal on his credits. And I think Our House is one I kept getting muddled up because there was sort of a cluster of films that came out within the span of like 2-3 years. There was Our House, Open House, His House. Like, I think for a while I got them all a little bit muddled up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to know where to even start with this one because on the face of it, it's just a horror movie. Just a horror movie, you know? But then the minute you start digging a little bit deeper, it becomes very obvious that it's actually a meticulously plotted, very carefully assembled house of cards. And I don't know, it's daunting. Do you not think? It's daunting to know where to start.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we just start at the beginning and see how we get on. Am I right in remembering that the film opens with a dream/nightmare sequence? That's the first thing we see, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, I don't remember. I couldn't remember if it was a dream sequence or it opens on her asleep in the playground.
See, I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. A movie about dreams would open with a dream sequence.
Yeah, and let me tell you, some of the most nightmarish visuals that I've ever seen, which from a Lifetime horror fan is saying something. But I don't know, you've listened to podcasts, you've listened to interviews with the director. Do you know how he put together these sequences? Because it has to have been digital, right? Yeah,
I don't really know anything about VFX or CGI, but it was a couple of years of post-production, I think, on this movie on the whole. So, yeah, just from CGI, I think. I did hear him say that he wanted to have wanted it to feel like almost like a miniature kind of situation. I don't really know what the purpose, I guess, to try and make it just seem a bit odd, a bit weird in some way, because it does feel like I don't think I've ever had dreams exactly like that. And if I had, I'd probably suggest to myself to get therapy. But it did feel like a very fair representation of dreams, like the way you glide through and seemingly random images that are probably relevant in some way.
But physics and logic be damned.
Yeah. But just I believe it was all done on a computer, which is great because it doesn't look like it.
It looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we talked about the fact that we're not sure of what the exact budget was, but we're assuming very low. So what they've achieved here, I think, is pretty outstanding. Yeah,
it looks great. It looks. I really wish I knew the budget.
Yeah, me too.
But whatever it was, I'm sure that this looks way better than you would think.
Yeah,
whatever money that is.
For sure.
And it's probably just a result of having the time to work on it more than anything.
Yeah, there's that. There's definitely that. And I think obviously they've played to their strengths. They've kept it quite dark. Obviously it's supposed to be quite nightmarish anyway, but the darkness and the lighting and I don't know, it looks great. And it's very arresting from the opening frames.
I would say that's maybe one of the strongest elements of this film is those sequences, but just how it looks and feels in general.
Yeah. It feels quite cold.
Because of the blue kind of
like a lot of it's kind of bathed in blue tinged light or greys, very much greys, and the buildings look quite brutalist, and it all looks quite severe and a bit clinical and a bit detached.
Yeah, it feels it's obvious that there are, I'm sure it's been said a million times, but there's strands of Cronenberg, of James Cameron, the in terms of the grading. You mentioned the blue. A lot of Jim Cameron films are that kind of bluey. I know Avatar's
because he spends half of his life underwater. That's why.
Yeah,
that's how he sees the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Cronenberg, another Canadian, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that later on as well, because there's quite a few references in this movie that I spotted.
Yeah, I'm going to mention old Jim Cameron again, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So yeah, we get the first kind of nightmare sequence, and then we see our protagonist, who's called Sarah.
Sarah, I remember her name.
Yeah, well, I should hope so.
Do you? Yeah, because you're terrible at remembering character names.
I mean, that one's kind of an easy
You remember
one.
her character name? Do you remember her actor name?
Julia.
I think
it's her middle name Sarah.
Oh no, I thought her first name was also Sarah.
Oh.
Something's. Yeah, you might be right.
Her last name's Stone.
Something Sarah Stone, I think. Yeah.
I think it's Julia.
Yeah.
God, we're bad at this.
Yeah, we're terrible. We should not be podcasted, should we?
She's great. She's great as well. Has to be said.
Well, the whole film rests on her completely.
Yes. Yeah.
So you really have to buy her performance and that character. Without a performance as good as that, I think this film doesn't. Like I said, it all rests on her shoulders. So
yeah.
Big responsibility. Yeah,
massively. And for an unknown, in inverted quotes, are we going to call her an unknown?
Well, unknown to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure that she's been in other things. I think the director spotted her in something and said he spoke about her. He used the phrase, "This is the girl," which is what's that? Mulholland Drive, isn't it? A Lynch reference.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that. I can see that. I think the only thing I've seen her in before this was an American remake of a European TV show called The Killing.
Oh, that's what he mentioned.
Right, there you go. Right. Okay. So I guess that's her most well-known role outside of this.
Was Joel Kinnaman in that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting to know that he saw her in something prior. Like, had she auditioned at that point, do you know? Or
I think maybe the casting person had maybe sent her details to him.
Right,
and
okay.
he saw the headshot or whatever and was like, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sure she probably came in and did a few lines or whatever to make sure, perfectly sweet. But yeah, he mentioned it. He'd seen her before, and when he came across her details, was like, yeah, I think that's the one.
Because she's really kind of, I don't mean this. This is a very neutral comment. No, we're not here to shame anybody. We don't body shame on this podcast. But she looks kind of frail. And again, that sounds like a really negative thing to say, and I don't mean it that way. I just mean in terms of the character looks fragile.
Well, I'm sure that's part of the physical performance as well.
Like, she looks young.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting that her character is sort of the antithesis of that. She's very good at standing up for herself. She's not scared to sort of say when something's not going well and she wants out. So that strength of character in somebody who looks like her is makes for a really interesting protagonist that we don't often see.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. But yeah, so we get past the first nightmare sequence. We open on her in a sleeping bag on a slide in a playground.
Where if you had to sleep in a playground, what ride would you sleep on? Would you also go slide?
No, because I broke my nose walking up a slide when I was a child. Right. So I have slide trauma.
So you don't go anywhere near the slides?
No, I get PTSD.
Yeah, okay. So what would it be for you? The roundabout?
No, because if somebody came and spun it...
Swing?
Definitely not a swing. I don't know. Like, the climbing things where you can get inside them and sort of hide? No. Okay. I'm not explaining myself very well.
When you said the climby things, I was imagining the bars that you swing along.
No.
Okay.
Where would you sleep?
Sandpit.
Sandpit?
Yeah. So you can squash up a little pillow.
Okay.
You can brush the sand over you as a extra layer of quilting.
Makeshift sheet.
Yeah. Put sand
Sounds
atop.
harder than you think it is, though. It wouldn't be a comfortable pillow.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't love to sleep in a playground, but if I had
wouldn't be your first choice.
No. If I had to, if I was Sarah, then I would have probably slept in a sandpit. But I don't know, we didn't see the full playground, so who knows if a sandpit was even a viable option.
Exactly. In a pinch, a slide will do.
Yeah.
And yeah, she wakes up. It's not a normal place to wake up, so immediately we're kind of on the back foot as the viewer.
Mm.
And then she looks at her phone. It's 11 minutes past 7, which I did a bit of digging on because knowing how carefully assembled this film is, I don't know. It's just one of those films where I'm just like, that can't be an accident. That must mean something. And I don't know if it's necessarily true or if I'm just trying desperately to ascribe meaning to everything. But I know a tiny, tiny bit about angel numbers. Do you know angel numbers?
I have no idea what angel numbers are, but it sounds like mumbo jumbo because it's got the word angel in it.
That's fair. But 711 is an angel number. And I have a brief description here that says, angel number 711 is a positive message of being backed and assisted in your rising. Now is not the time to be easily discouraged, worried, or to look behind you. Be bold and confident in your choices and share the benevolent energy with others when you're in the position to be generous. So says cosmopolitan.com. A trustworthy news outlet, if ever there was one.
It's like a horoscopes thing, isn't it? Like,
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, they're numbers. We invented numbers. You know?
Oh, here we go.
Like, yeah.
Mr. Skeptic. But
I'm open-minded.
But in the context of the film, it's interesting.
In the context of the film, it's interesting. Yeah, I think everything like that is obviously on purpose.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
Yeah. So it means go about your business, and you'll be fine. Right?
Oh my God, can you do your own interpretations for all angel numbers? Yeah. I would love that.
I could do
start like your own Mystic Dan column in a paper or something.
Mystic Dan.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's another incidence of 10:01 on a clock.
Yeah,
I believe
that's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, but that again is a number. It's a mirror number, which is a sign that guardian angels are trying to get in touch.
That's a palindrome, isn't it? 1001.
I don't know if they're called palindromes when they're numbers.
Or is it an Alt J song?
Let's go with that one.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, definitely not an accident, that
no.
sort of thing. It's all kind of relevant. I feel like there's a lot of... It's weird. I feel like there's a lot of things in this film that it may or may not have meaning. It's all probably intentional, but it may or may not have meaning in a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in that is kind of intentional. The fact that the things may or may not have relevance is because it's about dreams, in my opinion, and dreams don't always make sense.
I would say they rarely make sense.
They rarely make sense. There's rarely like logic or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe there is, but you just can't. You're sort of you can't really see what it is. They're quite abstract.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's kind of what he was going for with this film as well. Now, I feel like this makes way more sense than a film by a person we mentioned earlier, David Lynch. That's like, I don't fucking know what any of this means.
And well, David Lynch sure as shit isn't going to tell you.
No. No, but I feel like it's in that kind of area, but this is a lot more, I don't want to say structured, or say, it feels like a more complete story to me.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
And we'll talk about the ending, I'm sure, which may or may not work for you. But yeah, I feel like everything is intentional, but not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have a concrete reason.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether you miss things or pick up on everything. Like you're still gonna get the complete story, as you say.
Yeah, but it's still interesting to look at all these little pieces of information that are peppered throughout the film and kind of dig into it and wonder about it, which is, I've seen this 3 times now, and yeah, I'm still sort of seeing new stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that. It makes rewatches so rewarding.
Yeah.
That's rare. Yeah, so we follow Sarah. She wakes up. She cycles to what I guess, are to believe is her mum's house.
Yeah.
Because I think she waits over the street, watches her mum leave in a really old anachronistic car, which I'm going to get to as well.
Was it a station wagon?
I think it might have been.
It's always a fucking station wagon.
And she lets herself in the window. And now the room that she's in, I'm going to say, is probably a teenager's bedroom. looking at the decor.
Yeah.
Because we know all teenagers love Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. I mean, I did.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Anecdotally, all teenagers love Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's that kind of, how do I phrase this? There are several moments throughout the film where her mum sort of tries to reach her, whether that's kind of shouting after her, looking for her, trying to call her on her phone, and they're in the same kind of vicinity. Contact is so close to being made, but they can't quite reach one another for reasons which become very obvious at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, we never get to know why this scenario is the way it is, why she's kind of avoiding her mum.
Yeah, kind of the first time watch, you just kind of think, oh, that she has a miserable home life and she's trying to get out of there.
I think the synopsis describes her as a runaway.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I feel like that's a red herring.
Yeah, massively. The whole film is a red herring.
Yeah, all right. That statement was a red herring.
Yeah. This whole courtroom's a red herring. I just want to go back a minute before we get too far ahead of ourselves and revisit this idea about the anachronisms, because that was definitely something that struck me the first time we watched this. There's so much kind of analog technology, and her mum's car is quite old. All of the movie posters that we see are 80s/early 90s, I want to say. They're watching Night of the Living Dead, which is 60s, obviously. Everything's a little bit anachronistic in the same way that It Follows is. And I know I said I wasn't going to be repetitive, and I did talk about this on the other podcast that I did covering this film, but it's kind of an unavoidable comparison to me. Mm. It sort of creates this kind of disarming vibe where you're not quite sure when it's set, because it's not obvious from the clothing, but she's got a modern cell phone. Mm. So it has to be up to date. But then why is so much of the technology analog? Why is everything at the sleep facility so kind of old-fashioned looking?
It's weird. Maybe I had that thought first time round, but this last time it didn't strike me as being very anachronistic at all. And maybe that's because I know the ending. So it kind of is a bit meaningless to a degree. But obviously you mentioned she had a mobile phone, modern. I don't remember her mum's car, but you said it's an old station wagon.
It looks like it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know cars.
Some people have old cars.
No, I know.
And all of when she's cycling through the streets, all of the other cars are modern.
Oh, okay.
They have an Apple laptop.
Yep.
The stuff at the hospital, the screens, the monitors does feel like more of an older technology.
Yeah.
But it is also a new technology. So it's like, do they just have to use these analog techniques to be able to extract the dream information? I don't know. The mixing of old and new struck me a lot less this time, and I just noticed a lot more modern stuff, and I don't know what that means.
That's interesting, because it's definitely something I get a little bit stuck on.
But obviously you mentioned all of the pop culture references and stuff as well. Yes, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, for spanning 4 decades. But you know, you and I living room as posters of Living Dead and Nightmare on Elm Street and Lost Boys. That's all 80s and 90s, and we're in 2024.
Don't remind me. I know. I think maybe I get stuck on it because I love it as a stylistic choice. It's just something I really appreciate. I think it's interesting.
There's no shell phone in this.
No. Was it the Shell e-reader?
Was it the Shell e-reader?
I remember watching It Follows for the first time, and as soon as I got home, I was just like Googling it, only to find that it didn't exist. I was so distraught.
I'm amazed that it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Maybe somebody's made it now. Who knows?
Yeah, it's on Etsy. I'm sure you can get it on Etsy. You can get anything on Etsy.
Yeah, so that's a really neat stylistic choice that I love. And I think it just kind of, it works so well in this film in terms of the look of everything. Now, something we have to talk about is the fact that the film kind of takes place over chapters.
Yeah, yes. You've got 4 headings that pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
4 different points. And the first one is the persona.
The
second one is the anima or animus, something to do with Assassin's Creed. And the third one is the shadow, and the fourth one is the self, right?
I believe so.
These are all things that were created by Carl Jung.
They're definitely Jungian, yes. Now, again, this is something I talked about on the other podcast that I did. I did study psychology for a couple of years. We did kind of touch on this. We grazed it, shall I say. So I'm not super well versed, but I do have brief explanations of what each of those are.
Okay, so the persona is... Hang on, is the persona what you present to the world?
Yes.
It's your how you think people view you.
Pretty much, yeah. It's how you would like people to view you,
Okay.
like your idealized version of yourself.
Yep.
The shadow.
The shadow, I'm guessing, is your, like, I call my shadow Frank. It's like the little naughty side of you.
Frank's your id, isn't he?
Oh, right.
I'm mixing my I'm mixing my theories here.
So, but the shadow, I don't know then.
I mean, yeah, no, you're pretty
Is
on
he
the
a
money
baddie?
there.
Is the shadow a baddie?
It's the baddie, yeah.
It's Alec Baldwin, isn't it?
Oh dear. I hope your shadow isn't Alec Baldwin. So the shadow is kind of our dark, more morally ambiguous half. It's the darkness that we deny actively, I guess, but that resides in us all, whether we like it or not. And obviously in the movie, Sarah's kind of tortured by a literal shadow person, which again, we'll come back to because that's fascinating as well. So what about the anima and the animus?
The anima, is that the internal, like the internalized version of yourself?
No.
Okay, go on.
Well, I've got written down here, it's kind of the ideal male and female counterparts. They are tied to the gods Eros and Logos. The more I watch this film, actually, like I said, this is like 4 or 5 times now, I think I'm pretty happy with the theory that the male and female counterparts are Sarah and, what's his name? Riff?
I thought he was called Jeremy.
Jeremy. But they call him Riff, don't they? That's his nickname.
That's confusing. I thought
they
Riff
have a
was
conversation
different person.
about it.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Riff Raff.
Right.
Yeah, so that kind of makes sense as well in that sort of context. And the self, what's that?
I don't know.
I don't know why I'm quizzing you like
explain.
you're a child.
I've got no idea with psychology. It's a real blind spot for me.
Well, you did pretty well with the first 2 guesses, so...
Yeah, it's because I read it on Wikipedia.
Right, okay. You could have just gotten away with not telling me that and seemed far more impressive, you know. So the self is our truest self once we've overcome the persona, accepted the shadow, and moved towards self-actualization.
Okay.
Make sense?
Well... yes, it makes sense. So what is the purpose of these? Are these like psychology tools that one would use to get better, for lack of a better phrase, to improve? Is it like, what are they for?
I mean, the purpose of any of these sort of psychology theories is to just better understand the human condition, isn't it?
Yes.
And breaking it down that way makes it more easily digestible. I'm a bit of a cynic, though.
I mean,
the reason I stopped studying psychology is because we couldn't question them, and I was like, well, if we can't question them, why are they called theories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with that, it's like you can't. There's no real test in it. It's not like you can drop a ball and measure the distance and how far it's travelled. It's with things like that, with dreams or psychology, it's all outside of measuring brainwaves. It's
yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, but it's
no.
not.
You're explaining it perfectly well. That's why they are theories, though.
Yeah.
Because they're largely unprovable.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll find different kind of psychologists, people in that field will align themselves with specific theories more than others. It's basically just what you believe.
Yeah. Was Carl Jung, was he kind of a bit mystic?
Do I look like Carl Jung's biographer?
I don't know what Carl Jung's biographer looks like.
I genuinely don't have a clue. I don't know much about the man himself.
I think I heard somewhere that he believed that these 4 things, aspects of a person's psyche are kind of passed down through from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Through some kind of genetic memory.
Yes.
And because in his mind it was kind of the same as instincts, animals that are born and they can walk straight away.
Yeah.
How do they know that?
Yeah.
Or we know to be afraid of fire, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that you know already.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding, like you were a kid, you come out of the vagina. I'm not going to explain
You
how
could
that works.
just say the womb.
They don't come out of the womb.
Of course they do.
I suppose they do.
They exit the womb.
The exit point is the vagina. but and I know nothing.
We're talking psychology, not biology here.
And I know nothing about children or babies, but from my understanding is the second that you whack a nipple in front of them, they're just sucking away, right?
Yes, I believe
There's no
so.
like, oh, how do you do that? Give me some instructions.
Well,
Get
some
on
of them do
YouTube.
need to be encouraged. I've never had a child, and I would like to expand that by saying I've never breastfed any children either.
Go on, you can
It's
do
not
it.
always assumed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I believe it is one of those instinctual things.
But he believed it was kind of passed down through the generations, right? These ideas of having the aspects of your psyche, and they serve an evolutionary purpose, just I guess to some degree.
So he believed in the collective unconscious.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, that's the same thing. The
Is it?
instincts. It's not a conscious thought. It's you're working on instinct.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the notion that we all share the same kind of or similar mental concepts, which ties really nicely into the sleep paralysis themes of this movie, which I definitely want to talk about more because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, scary.
Really terrifying. Yeah.
Luckily, I don't think I've ever suffered from that, and hopefully I never do.
No, I definitely haven't. Thank God. Touch wood. But yeah, even in the movie, they call like these shadow men that they record. They call it a unified fear. So that ties so well into that notion of the collective unconscious.
Right.
It's kind of genius to make that connection, because they do talk about the fact that kind of going back generations, there've always been tales of people experiencing these shadow men, which is fascinating because nobody really knows what causes sleep paralysis. We know so little about what happens when we sleep as well. Like, you know, what we dream, why we dream. It's kind of a big question mark still, for the most part.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavily unexplored area, and something that, you know, hopefully science kind of catches up and we're able to explore these things a bit more. But it's not till recently that we've been able to measure or had any sort of electric and computer tools to be able to measure things. So it's a young science.
It's fascinating. You know way more about this stuff than me. The whole Neuralink thing.
Well,
will that be able to help with any of that stuff, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, you say that I know a lot more about it than you, but I mean, I really don't think that I do.
Fair enough.
I know that it's kind of, it's been put in somebody now. There's been human subjects, and seems to be working great.
That's nuts. I don't want one.
I don't want one. I mean, I'll be one of the last to have it, because we get to a point where you're not going to be able to get a job unless you've got a Neuralink. But that's way down the line.
Fuck it, I'm self-employed.
We'll be long retired by then.
I don't want one.
But
I want it in writing. When I go do Lally, you can't fit one.
But if it interfaces with your brain, then, you know, you would think that it would be able to receive and scan brain information and present it so that we can extract data from it, I guess.
So that's exciting.
The whole technology is pretty exciting.
Well, yeah, obviously. But in this field specifically, that could be a real breakthrough.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so obviously the technology in the film doesn't exist. It's a complete fabrication. You can't visualize, you can't kind of take snapshots of somebody else's dreams, even if you put a weird little hat on them, but it does make for a cool visual.
Yeah.
So what do you know about sleep paralysis and sleep paralysis demons, as they're called?
I thought sleep paralysis was where you're at a certain point of sleep, but you wake up, but you can't move because you're not really awake, you're not really asleep, you're sort of in between. So the paralysis that you experience while you're sleeping exists so you don't act out your dreams, but you've woken up a little bit, but you're still paralyzed, so you can't move.
So it's sort of semi-self-preservational, but really fucked up.
Right.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate the notion of it. But you don't see it explored in film very often.
No.
Like, the only other example I can think of recently was one episode of The Haunting of Hill House.
Right. Did I see that? Did I see
You
the
did.
one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that. But you said sleep paralysis demons. So people see creatures. Is it like?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
People genuinely like that stuff from the film is factual. People describe seeing a really shadowy figure like in the corner of the room. A lot of the time not moving, just sort of standing there like in the corner of the room, foot of the bed, just being overbearing and terrifying, basically.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. And you're aware of it, but you can't do anything. Can't run away.
I wonder what that is. So a lot of people describe having seen the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot like near-death experiences. Everyone says they see the same thing. They float up from their body, or they see some light, and they go. It's always the same sort of stuff. And it's hard to know if that's because that's what culture has presented to you, so that's what you think you're seeing, or whether it's. But it also, like I said, I'm open-minded. Could be real, and it could just be what you're seeing is real, which means that if those shadow people are real, fuck me, I'm never going to sleep again.
I mean, I think we're fine.
But maybe they're not harmful. Maybe they just look scary as fuck, but really they're teddy bears.
They're chaotic neutral. Who knows? But yeah, maybe Jung was onto something with the whole collective unconscious thing. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence to support it, I guess. But yeah, I remember watching a documentary about sleep paralysis actually a few years ago called The Nightmare. And I don't remember a great deal about it, I'll be honest. I think it came out in 2015 and I would have watched it shortly after that. But yeah, it's fascinating, endlessly interesting. It's kind of testaments from people who've experienced it regularly and just ripe for the picking for a horror movie.
Yeah. I remember a TV show on ITV called Nightmare where kids had to put on a helmet. You had to tell them to move left or right.
Yes, I remember that too.
You had a magic apple or something in your little pouch. You had to fight a scary spider.
Yeah, and they would always step off the bricks and fall into nothingness.
You've seen that video where it's one of these, and it starts, and then literally 2 seconds later, one kid goes, "Step left." No!
And they're all there with their heads in their hands. Yes, I have.
I might watch that afterwards. But whenever you say the word nightmare, I always think of that. But yeah, no, I haven't seen that documentary. I am kind of interested to watch that, particularly after having seen this film. And I think Burns has mentioned that somewhere on some podcasts.
Okay.
He's seen that documentary. I think he suffered with night demons, paralysis.
Sleep paralysis.
That's it. Sleep demons. I think he's that's something that he went through as well, which I guess is why main reason he wrote this film in the way that he did. But yeah, he definitely mentioned about that documentary.
Interesting. I believe the documentary was made by the same guy who did Room 237.
Ooh.
Which is a really good documentary if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Even I enjoyed that. I think I enjoyed the documentary Room 237 more than I enjoyed the show.
Get out. Get out. What's wrong with you?
I'm kidding. It's quite good.
It's quite good, he says. Oh my God. We have to get that in a theme.
What, The Shining?
Yeah, we have to. We're covering it.
All right.
I'll make you see sense. So yeah, we've talked a lot about the anachronisms, we've talked about sleep paralysis, we've talked about a bunch of themes and all of the Jungian stuff. But there's more in terms of references. I mentioned the Weekend at Bernie's poster.
Yeah.
There's a Terminator poster.
Yeah.
In one of the offices.
Yeah. In the office of the hospital, isn't it?
Yes. Which is weird. Well, is it? I don't know if it's a hospital or a university. Maybe it's like a teaching hospital or something.
It could be a university.
Yeah. Obviously, the guy leading the study looks very styled on George Romero, another Canadian.
Yep.
I think.
Yep. The other doctor looks like Harry Potter.
He does a little bit Daniel Radcliffe. They go to see Night of the Living Dead, which we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. I think Sarah's wearing a Romero phys ed t-shirt at one point, which I'm assuming is like the high school.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of nods to other films.
Is there an Elm Street reference? Is one of the streets called Elm Street or something as well?
Maybe.
I seem to remember that the first or second time I saw it, but I was looking out for it this time and I didn't spot it. But
Okay. Maybe you dreamt that.
maybe I dreamt it, yeah.
There is an Elm Street in Toronto.
Oh.
I took a picture of the sign when I was
Very
there. But yeah, again, because I'm desperately trying to ascribe meaning to everything in this movie, I spent some time thinking about whether there was a through line, whether there was any connective tissue between the films that were mentioned. Weekend at Bernie's, they prop up a dead guy, make him appear like he's alive.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, a bunch of dead people come back to life. And the Terminator, somebody's sent back in time to prevent mass death, or well, like specific deaths, but you know, the end of civilization.
Yeah.
So could that be intentional as well? Because obviously, spoilers, Sarah has been in a coma this entire time. And the whole film is basically people trying to reach her from the outside through experimental means, trying to wake her, like rouse her from the dead, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I wondered if that was intentional.
It's kind of a nod to the ending of this movie and what we assume is going on throughout it. Yeah, possibly. I mean, it could be that. I mean, sometimes there's just references in films, and it's just because the filmmaker enjoyed those movies and they were somewhat of an influence on them.
Little Easter eggs for nerds.
Yeah, but I do like your reading on the propping up Weekend at Bernie's guy. I always get them confused. It's the second one where he's a dancing corpse. The first one, he's not reanimated. He's fully dead.
It's an important distinction.
Yeah. And then Terminator, I know that Jim Cameron came up with the idea of the Terminator from a fever dream that he had.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Is this what you were talking about when you said you were going to bring up Cameron again?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
It's pretty well known that he was really, really sick and he saw the iconic image of the metal skeleton in flames. And that's sort of where the idea of the Terminator came from, and he just kind of built it up from there.
Oh, cool.
So that could be part of the reason for that.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony Scott Burns seems like somebody who knows his films.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few other references. Like they talk briefly about a Philip K. Dick book.
Which one was it? Was it Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
No, I can't remember the title of it, but
Is it Blade Runner?
It's not Blade Runner. It's the precursor to Blade Runner.
Wasn't Blade Runner based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yes.
Okay. And was it the one that was based on Total Recall? The one that Total Recall was based on? What was that?
I don't know.
I don't remember either.
This is all you.
Yeah. But that's kind of also in that, is it a dream?
Yeah.
Which version of this person am I?
Mm-hmm.
Is any of it real?
Yeah.
So that it is kind of in keeping. So let's say that it was whatever Total Recall was based on.
Sure. How do you feel about some of the more experimental shots in this film? I've got one in mind specifically.
Yeah, because I can't think of any.
Okay.
Go on, you shout me one.
Well, the one that's in my mind specifically is when she's in the laundromat. Because there are a couple of occasions where she sort of has a seizure. She describes one as a panic attack, but I've had a panic attack. That's not it. But she's kind of sleeping and then she has a seizure and the camera's sort of, I don't know how they achieved that shot. And I really want to know how. I know sometimes similar shots are achieved by kind of the actor wearing a mounted camera, but I don't think that was the case here. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? It's sort of like flashes of color and it looks really cool.
I mean, I know what you're talking about when it looks like the actor is wearing a camera and you've got that. It's always used in films to portray someone that's drunk or whatever.
Yeah.
So is that what you're talking about, that effect? I don't remember it at all in this film.
It's similar, but it's not the same thing, no.
Right.
But I do wonder if that scene has any great significance as well, because she's at the laundromat and she's woken up by a woman, but not just any woman, an obviously blind woman.
Yeah.
Because she's got those white sort of fulchy eyes going on.
Yeah.
And eyes come up a lot in this. Like Sarah's eye is injured and she has to wear an eye patch. Right at the end, she pokes out Jeremy's eyes. And I've been racking my brains to try and find some significance for eyes, but I couldn't think of anything.
Well,
it turns out I'm just not that smart.
I mean, eyes are what we use to view the world.
Yes.
So that's how we shape our reality.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that a blind person woke up Sarah and said, "I saw someone take your phone," you're thinking, well, how? How did you see that? Because you're blind.
Yeah, she says those boys stole something from you, took something from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But something. That's how we view the world, is through our eyes. I don't know. I've got
Thanks,
nothing.
Dr. Dan.
I don't know.
We are so smart.
I was trying.
Marty. Yeah, I couldn't come up with anything, but but it's obviously meaningful.
Yeah, eyes are gross. That's what it means.
Gross. You think eyes
things.
are gross?
They're horrible.
What?
Have you ever tried pressing an eye?
I put contact lenses in literally daily.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe if you did that, you would get over it.
Maybe.
Like, what do they call it? Flooding therapy. You just got to put loads of contact lenses in your eye and then you'll get over it. Like if somebody's scared of spiders, so they put you in a room full of spiders.
Yeah, I get it.
Just put you in a room full of eyeballs.
Room full of eyeballs.
Yeah, that'll cure you.
Yeah, would it?
That definitely wouldn't have adverse consequences.
No, wouldn't need any therapy after that.
Sounds like a scene from a Saw movie.
Yeah, I was thinking of Saw. I was thinking the part in Saw where she has to rifle through the syringes, except eyeballs.
Oh, Saw 2.
She has to eat the eyeballs. You have to eat your way out of an eyeball room.
Okay, now you're grossing me out. Okay, maybe I'll start wearing glasses now. But I did wonder, like, there's so much emphasis on those boys took something from you, and I wondered if maybe that had something to do with why she was in the coma.
Possibly. You mean like that could be an event that happened in quote unquote the real world?
Yeah, because I think a lot of what she's dreaming in the coma, and I did Google this. Apparently, some people report experiencing nothing in a coma. Other people report kind of quite vivid dreams. Nobody really knows. Again, how can we? But I think a lot of what she's dreaming is informed by stuff that happened to her.
Yeah, or her surroundings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although you're not quite sure. I know the ending of the movie, it says you're in a coma.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that she may not be.
So you're kind of saying, like, because the whole film is effectively an unreliable narrator, that even the text at the end might not be real?
It just might. What I'm saying is I don't take anything in this film on face value.
That's
like the
fair.
fact that it gets to the end and it says you're in a coma, I still think maybe you could be in quote unquote the real world, and in fact the real world, we're all in a coma. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like our version of what we think is real in this reality could also be a dream.
We're all a dog's dream.
Is that what's that?
I don't know.
Is that a philosophical?
It's my
thing?
Theory.
Okay.
It's Sarah's theory.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, you know what the nature. If you're going down the nature of reality path, there is that side to it that I was thinking about as well.
This is getting too existential for me. Am I going to want to jump off a bridge by the end of this episode?
No. Like,
what's real?
What's the difference if you're in a dream with you're a meat person, really? Like, what is the difference? If you think that you're a real person, then you're a real person. Doesn't matter.
I suppose, as long as you're not offering me a red pill or a blue pill.
But that's along the same sort of lines as well. Like, as long as you're happy and you don't know that, even if you know, you can still be happy. You talk about simulation theory, and that's kind of what we're talking about, simulation theory in another episode.
Ooh.
It's sort of linked into the whole dream world, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The fact that we could all be dreaming in a simulation. Some people posit that it's actually a statistical probability that we are.
Holy shit.
But yeah, I guess I don't take anything in this film as gospel. And I think maybe that's part of my issue with trying to reconcile any thoughts about this film. Because for me, you could go off in any direction.
So you think it's almost futile having too concrete of an opinion because you're likely wrong?
I personally just feel a bit overwhelmed by it.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
She may be in a coma, she may not be in a coma. The whole world, her world that she's in might be real. It might not be real. She might be dreaming within a dream. They're doing a sleep study on the person that's in a coma while she's in a coma. Or she's alive for part of the film and she at some point goes into the coma during maybe she was
that's
attacked.
The seizure.
Maybe she has the seizure at the start or the end of the movie. That's when she goes into the coma. Or maybe she's reliving the thing over and over. I don't know.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, there's so much that you could go into with this film. I think when the first time I watched it, I really wasn't keen on that ending.
No, me too.
I really, because for me, I was thinking about Dallas. And I never watched. It was all a dream. I never watched Dallas, but it's such a like a cultural touchstone that that was a cop out. It was all a dream, and I kind of felt that way about this the first time I saw it, but I don't feel that way now. I don't mind the ending now. I think it's actually quite interesting.
I echo your thoughts absolutely 100%. First viewing, I mean, I loved the film, but then it got to that moment and I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I almost felt a bit cheated. But then on repeat viewings, when you know how it's going to end, it's like, yeah, all right, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I like it. Bravo.
Well, in a movie that's all about dreams, the fact that she reaches the end of, or we reach the end of the movie, we find out that essentially this probably was all one long dream. It fits within the style of the movie, so it's not really a cop out. It's kind of like
it's just a part of the narrative.
Well, it had to end that way, really. Like, how else are you going to end it?
Yeah, that's true. I know a lot of people that I've spoken to would have preferred it if it just kind of ended with the really dark realization that she'd killed Jeremy.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I really like the ending that we got.
I think the ending that we got is not as dark as ending on her gouging somebody's eyeballs out.
Yeah.
But it's still not like...
Well, she's still in the coma. It's not too optimistic.
It's not an overly happy ending, but it does leave you with some hope.
Yeah.
It does leave you like...
And even if she does wake up, she's lost 20 years.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And it reminds me of one of my favourite books called Girlfriend in a Coma.
Oh, okay.
By Douglas Coupland.
Right.
Which is excellent. Very good book. But yeah, she also turns into a vampire.
Yes. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because earlier on in the movie, she's watching Jeremy or Riff sleeping and she sees his dream and he's dreaming about her and he sees her with vampire teeth.
Yes.
So does she see herself with vampire teeth because she had seen herself with vampire teeth in his dream and she's just remembering that?
Well, so the theories on Reddit, here we go. She's been on Reddit again. The fan theories are that it's sort of memories more than anything. Again, like her memories, her experiences are informing the dream that she's having while she's in the coma, and that might have been because he's got vampire fangs as well. It's not just her. Right. That it might be that they were a couple in real life. They went to a Halloween party, and it's literally just memories.
Right.
But it's blurring with reality because dreams don't follow logic.
And vampires come out at night, obviously.
Yeah.
Most of us sleep at night. There's that kind of that nocturnal kind of connection there as well. You could read it on multiple levels again. Like first time you see it, I remember watching it just going, what?
Yeah.
She's a vampire?
What the fuck?
Is this a vampire movie? Did I miss something? And you kind of have to think about it and still not fully get it if you're me. But yeah, I sort of, second and third viewings, I do enjoy it a lot more for what it is. I really try to watch, I struggle with this, particularly when we talk about films on a podcast. I always try not to judge a film by what it isn't.
Okay.
Like if we watch a film and I think, oh, I wish I'd done this, I try not to go too far down that road and try to appreciate it for what it is rather than what I thought it should be. And I kind of, I guess I sort of feel that way about this movie now. I appreciate it for what it is.
Okay.
And can see the layers. Don't know what the fuck it all means. Couldn't begin to unpack any of it.
Well, we've done a decent job, I think.
You've done a decent job.
I've got so much more that I haven't even gone into.
I've held on to your coattails.
My coattails?
Yeah.
Is that a new egg corn?
Yeah, it's a new ear corn.
malapropisms. Love it. But yeah, I've got a bunch of other stuff that I'll quickly list off before we start wrapping up. So the only other female participant in the sleep study, Emily, drops out after the first night.
Oh, yeah.
So my working theory is that all of the other participants are maybe people on the same ward. Maybe they're all in a coma. There's some sort of really depressing coma ward.
Possibly.
And that Emily either came out of the coma, or if you're a pessimist, she died.
Yeah. Because
they said like, oh, this happens all the time. And I did actually mean to sort of look into statistics of how many people do come out of comas versus pass away. But I didn't find anything kind of concrete. But that to me kind of makes sense. Like the other participants could be, or people that she knew in real life, maybe.
Yeah. Because
I do think that everything that happens to her is sort of semi-familiar. Her killing Jeremy at the end. Now, I can't take credit for this theory. This is another one that I read online. There's an absolutely wonderful article. And if I can find it again, I'll try and link it in the notes, maybe, for this episode. So Sarah killing Jeremy at the end is kind of indicative of her destroying her animus, which in turn sort of leaves her available for communication from the outside world. So she sort of had to kill that part of herself.
Right.
To be able to receive the message and therefore hopefully expel herself from the coma.
Right. Okay.
Which makes sense in terms of all the Jungian stuff that we've talked about. Her phone seems to be an anchor. Like things start going really, really wrong for her when she loses her phone, or when it's stolen from her, rather. She's sleepwalking when Jeremy finds it again. When she answers it, that's what wakes her up from her sleepwalking. Yeah, there's so much. It's so dense. And I think there's so much that you can read in different ways, which is something that I love about a film. You don't have to have a concrete answer. You can just kind of form your own opinion on what everything means. Yeah. Which I just think is brilliant. And we've not talked nearly enough about the music.
Yeah, the music's great. Maybe the strongest part of this movie for me.
Yeah, I know we said that at the top of the show, but I think it does bear repeating.
It's it's not very often that I listen to movie scores all the time, so maybe it's but I couldn't just listen to this score over and over again. I think it's absolutely great. Electric Youth as well. Pilot Priest, just it's a banging score, and it just fits so well with everything that we're seeing on the screen as well.
Yeah,
just the style of it fits so well.
I think it's really funny because I think we've watched this together at least 3 times now.
Well, yeah, I've seen it 3 times and I've watched it every time.
And every time it gets to that, I think it's almost at the 1 hour mark.
Yeah. Volume up.
And there's that one track and we're both just like white knuckling.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
And it's really nicely edited as well. Like some of the changes in the track are kind of cut with the scenes in the movie as well. Not all of them, but there's certain points it will change shot when the music changes a beat or whatever. It's really nicely done.
I like that.
Yeah.
Have you got any more thoughts before we start wrapping things up? What's your... here we go. I've got a question for you. What is your favourite visual from one of the nightmare sequences? Because there's a lot to choose from.
I think just the look of the shadow people, really. I think one of my favourite, outside of the music scene that we were talking about, my favourite scene in the movie is where you've got the 2 guys looking at the seemingly the same shadow person.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of sit up in unison. That's my favourite scene because it's the scariest part of the movie, I would say. It's the most atmospheric and like, oh, shit.
Yeah, because it feels like they're in real danger and they can't fucking move.
Yeah, creepy. And you're thinking about the people watching them on the monitor and the person says, oh, I'm going to go in. And I'm thinking, no, don't go in. I think the look of the shadow people, I think they're so just ominous looking.
Yeah.
And like, because it's such a recognisable figure, quote unquote.
To a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. Not to me, obviously, but people report these things. It's the sort of thing I think I will think about if I wake up in the middle of the night, even if I don't see it.
Yeah,
I might just have that thought, be like, "Fuck, is there one of?"
Yeah,
and just look in a corner, and then maybe there's a shadow on the wall, some light going in, and you see a shadow, and like you for a split second, you think I can see something. So I think it's really super difficult to create something that would kind of stick. But I think that image of those creatures will stick with me.
I think that's a really good indication of a really high quality horror film. Because jump scares are easy, man.
Yeah, jump scares are just they're like
They're
the
cheap.
Big Mac of movie things.
Yeah, it's the fast food of horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but something that
Quick and
actually
easy.
has a lasting impression and scares you after the fact is truly an achievement.
Haunting.
I think.
Yeah, something that's haunting is way more impressive to me than just someone opening a bathroom cabinet that's got a mirror on it, and then they close it, and then suddenly, oh, there's someone behind me. Oh no.
I'm so over the mirror jump scare.
Yeah, rubbish.
Yeah,
there's none of that here. It's I'd even hesitate to call it a horror movie.
Would you? Do you see it as more sci-fi or thriller?
Yeah, it does fit in with that, and I guess that's kind of the Cronenbergian connection for me as well, because a lot of that is horror, but is it? I know it's like body horror, but it's mostly horrific in some of the stuff you see, but not necessarily scary, if that makes sense. And I feel that's similar about this. Like, it's scary what you're seeing, but then also you've got this sci-fi element, which I love. I love all of it. I haven't mentioned the suits. I love the suits.
You were really enthusiastic about the sleep suits.
Yeah, I think they look great.
They're super retro. That's kind of more fuel to my anachronism argument.
Yeah, they do look kind of retro. They look kind of Tron-y.
Yeah,
Tron-ish.
okay.
I mean, I would give my left testicle to go to a rave in one of those suits.
I thought you were going to say to a sleep study. It's like, you can do that without removing a testicle.
Can you really? You can
do sleep studies, yeah. You don't get one of those suits.
Well, you get paid.
Is that a deal breaker?
I'll have to buy my own with all the money that I earn from sleeping. So I could work and then go and sleep and still earn money.
Potentially, yeah.
Let's look into this.
And I'd get a peaceful night.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah. To go back to your question, yeah, it's all of this film, how it looks to me, I think is just incredible. But the creatures and the suits, I think, look great.
Yeah. I think for me, it's the creature that was all legs.
Yeah.
Because that was a little bit Silent Hill.
It was a bit Silent Hill, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
That will stay with me for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, how much you're spending on shoes?
Oh, you'd go bankrupt.
Yeah. What if you get athlete's foot? Which foot is it?
All
your feet. What if you're a creature person that has legs all over your body and you want to go swimming, and then you have to go through that little bit that stops verrucas from getting into the pool, that little bit of water.
Well, you got to be rinsed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So will they have to do like a cartwheel through that?
I guess so, yeah.
But then I suppose, how are you floating if you're totally made of feet?
Yeah, how do you swim?
How do you swim? How do you do anything?
We're going to be picturing this for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that creature was potentially Tarantino's Perfect Woman. Yeah. Nothing but feet.
This film was complete, and then he watched it. He was like, I know it needs something
feet.
else. I've got an idea. This was his favourite movie from 2020, Tarantino's.
Was it?
I expect so.
You've got that on good authority, do you?
I'm just guessing. I think you're right. I think this is his ideal woman.
She's not going to talk back. So I think that brings us to an end of Come True.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Exhausting.
Fascinating movie. Really, really good. Really enjoyable to watch it again. Really rewards repeat viewings as well.
Massively.
Apparently there's some kind of nuggets of information in there that kind of clue you into it might be a coma. I didn't spot any of them.
Okay.
But apparently that they are in there.
Did you know that prior to this viewing, or did you learn that after?
No, I heard that, I think, yesterday.
So, okay, so we're going to need to watch it again.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it again at some point. I don't think I'm necessarily going to tire of watching this one.
No.
It's like I said, I wasn't a massive fan of the ending the first time I saw it. More on board the second time, third time, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the ending.
Yeah.
And it's definitely gone from, because the first time I was like, I love everything, I love how it looks, I love how it sounds, but that ending really did ruin it for me a little bit. But now it's like it's gone way up in my estimation, and something that I think I'll come back to again and again. I'm glad that you own the Blu-ray, which is a beautiful cover as well.
It is.
That poster is just, I think it's great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, I'm really happy we covered this. It was overwhelming and it was a little bit daunting, but I hope we did it justice.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week?
So next week we are going to the Ken Russell well, to the William Hurt well, not for the first time this season, as I found out.
Oh.
Completely by accident.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and loosely fits within the dream theme. I think...
it does it? We're not going to have a repeat of Neo-Western, are we?
It's yeah. Well, we'll talk about it next week. Have I even said the title of it yet?
No.
Oh, fucking hell! It's we're doing Altered States.
And this is going to be a first time watch for me.
Yes, interesting. But you own the Blu-ray.
I do,
you?
yeah. I blind bought it because I feel like it's one I should have seen already. I'm kind of amazed I haven't seen it already because I quite like Ken Russell. Yeah. So I'm excited.
I watched it for the first time, I think, during the pandemic. Fucking bizarre movie.
Okay.
I think you'll like it.
Great.
But it's been on your, like you say, you blind bought it, and it's been on our to watch pile for a while. And I thought it's about time we bloody well watch it. And although it's loose, the way that it fits into this theme, I think I can kind of explain it.
Okay.
It's kind of.